It's time to find out what the whole next season is on World of Tanks, and hopefully you'll enjoy this World of Tanks console update news video, and we're going to go through every single thing. We have a brand new premium tank that is quite probably going to be super overpowered down at tier 7, and we're also going to be having a look at what the free tanks you're going to be able to get as part of the season pass for next season, and what sort of rewards are coming with the next season, and all of the update info for this week. Obviously it's all timestamped, so you can switch and go between the various parts of the video that you want to, but other than that, let's get straight into it. So first things first, the Sturm Panzer V, the machine in the background you can see here, and yes, it does have a derp cannon, one of those disgustingly kind of large cannons that you'll see in World of Tanks console, and it has a 780 alpha damage gun with its standard rounds, and then if you fire the premium, which of course gets a much better penetration but obviously suffers in the damage, you can still do 580 damage to the opponents that you're going to be hitting, which is a lot, considerably a lot for that tier. You're basically going to be able to outtrade every single heavy tank in the game, and when you can go at 55 kilometers an hour, you've got spaced armor on the sides, you've got spaced armor on the front and on the turret, and then you basically can go fast. Yeah, I don't know how well this is going to be balanced. Combine that with the fact that it has 0.48 accuracy and only a 2.9 second aim time to be able to deal 780 damage. Yeah, that doesn't seem too underpat or too relevant to me, to be honest with you. I think when you add in the fact that it has 3.53 rounds a minute, if we put that towards the actual damage figures that you can deal, you're going to be having like nearly 2,000 base DPM with firing just the 180mm penetration rounds rather than the HE, and that's including if you don't come up against those lightly armoured targets where you can either overmatch or you can actually just fully pen 780 damage. Yeah, you're going to be looking at nearly 2,500 DPM if you can pen 3 shots in a row with this thing. Obviously that is very dependent on what tanks you're coming up against, but if you have the ability to swap between the rounds as part of your equipment loadout, having that advanced loading mechanism or something like that where you can swap between the rounds without having to reset the reload, then yeah, this is going to be utterly devastating. I think that it's not going to be particularly balanced. 55 kilometers an hour, it's basically like a Dreadnought, except this one has much better speed. You're probably going to have better armor than the Dreadnought as well, and yeah, I just think that it's going to be pretty disgusting. Yes, the reload time is super long, but when you actually have all of the perks on, you're probably looking at about 13 seconds to be able to deal that damage out, as long as you have all of the DPM buff perks that you can have in the game. This tank is certainly not going to be it's not going to be awful. Is it going to be overpowered? Obviously we'd have to test it out and give it a go in game, but from my first thoughts, I think that this is probably a pretty risky premium tank, and when it's essentially a Panzer V-4 but it has the derp gun, I guess it makes it somewhat more balanced than it would be at tier 7. But yeah, I don't know how well it's going to be balanced. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't, but essentially just having the Panther hull with some spaced armor on the sides and a weird turret with a massive gun. It seems like the mercenaries all over again, and we all know how that ended up in the game. Things like the machine, things like the sharpshooter and the hard case. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, leave your opinions in the comment section down below and we'll get a good discussion going. And I think that it's definitely not particularly very good for the game. It'll be really fun, don't get me wrong, to play in this thing. And if you do want to purchase it, it is part of the Ultimate Season Pass, which will cost you 6,000 gold if you want to actually purchase this season's one. It is at a discount, if you can even call it a discount, because remember, you are getting a tier 7 instead of the usual Cold War premium, which costs 12,000 gold. So yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. With this package, the Kinetic Fury Ultimate Pass, you will get the tank itself. You'll also get the Ravenous Rolf 3D Hero Commander, which looks to be some sort of zombie. So I guess if you're interested in getting that, then yeah, you'll get an extra 30% bonus Commander XP per game, and you'll get it straight away. And then you'll also get eligibility for the Monster Drop Challenge and all the rewards and benefits from both the free and season pass as well. So combine that. I guess if you want this tank straight away, or you want to be able to purchase this tank or play this probably overpowered tank, then yeah, you are going to be having to pay 6,000 gold. But remember, you do get the season pass and all of the other extra stuff with it, so just take that into account. It'll probably cost you 4,000 gold to be able to get this tank, essentially, because that's what the additional cost is. But plus you will get this commander as well for free. Anyway, what else do you get with the season pass? Well, I think it's time we have a look, because it's all been released. The trailer from Wargaming themselves has released this next season. You will be able to pick up a couple of free tanks. The tanks actually being the this one right here. I think it's the Turan. I think you can get for free, or maybe it's even the later one. I think that this is actually the Chaffee, essentially, for the Cold War mode. Yeah, it looks to be somewhat like that. I think it has cost you maybe for free, so you'll be able to get it whether you get to season rank 100, NM 116, and then I think that this is the Object 752, which is the tier 9 heavy tank, I believe. I think it's going to be a better tank, and then of course the Creature Sturmpanzer 5. So that is pretty much all of the tanks that will be released. I think that the Object 752 is going to be interesting, and yeah, I think that it's definitely going to be a strange update. Of course, it's based around Halloween and the Halloween event, so I think that this season may be shorter than the rest of them, considering Halloween obviously is the end of October. So yeah, I think that it'll be an interesting one, probably last about 4 or 5 weeks in my personal opinion. Obviously it could be the traditional 6 weeks that the seasons are taking, but I'm not entirely sure. As far as the actual update news for next week and this week, well, we've got quite a bit to go through. Of course, we had the addition of the new Sturmtiger line. If you're grinding through that, I want to see your opinions in the comment section down below, because I've been really enjoying it, especially from the tier 6 upwards. Tier 5 is pretty meh, but as soon as you get up to the tier 6, it's such a fantastic line, and it's really interesting to grind your way through. Here are some of the statistics for the tanks themselves, so if you want to have a look at them, just look on screen basically. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it looks like they're pretty average in terms of the win rate that people are getting in them. As far as some of the other things, you'll be getting added Ghost Town to World War II tiers 9 to 10, so you'll be able to play Ghost Town at tiers 9 and 10, and they've retired the Cold War maps from World War II random battles. So this is when you jump onto the game right now, all of this is available. You also have the daily play challenge, which you have a chance at getting key cards. All you have to do is play one battle, really pretty easy, and you have the ability to get some gold. You also have the tanks reforged, so the E50M line and all of the premium tanks that are associated, like the Revenant Craft Panther, they've all been buffed, so you're just better overall in them. And then of course next week, coming in with some of the bigger things, you have the next season Commander skill respec discount of 50%, so if you're interested in actually spending 45 gold instead of 90 gold, still a very controversial thing that Wargaming decided to do, where it costs you 90 gold to swap out the perks on your commander. You can't just pick one specific perk that you want to swap out, it will cost you all of them, which is very annoying, and I don't see why they did that. Well, I do. It's probably just so that they can earn more money off of you, because that's traditionally where the monetization of the game is, all the little things which cost you a little bit of gold, which mean in the long run you won't have enough to buy the bundle that you probably want that may have been 8,000 gold, but because you had to spend some on respecking your commander, you now have 7,950. And what's the cheapest gold package you can buy? Well, it is like 900 gold, and you'll probably have to pay £5 for it or whatever it is. And then if you actually want a reasonably priced gold package, you'll probably be looking in the region of $19.99 for any actual decent amount of gold compared to the price of it. So yeah, they've kind of got you by the balls in that sense, if you want to be able to purchase some of the stuff within the game and at least enjoy the game. So there we go. That is kind of what the commander skill is. Obviously, if you're interested in doing it, this is a great time to go through all of your commanders that maybe you've got duplicate commanders whereby they have pretty much the same skills and you want to retrain them. So you've got a tank destroyer, a heavy tank crew, then you can do that within this week. As along with that, obviously the Kinetic Fury season, so that's all to do with those tanks. Obviously we've gone through them. 2,000 gold season pass gives you the Object 752, that tier 9 Soviet medium at level 100, and then of course at free at level 100 you get the NM 116. I will hopefully do some reviews on all of the above tanks, including that new monster tank, as soon as the update gets released, and we'll try and do that for you. Of course, then we have the new 3D commanders, Ravenous Rolf, Warwolf, Carmelia and Monstrosity, so that's all going to be very interesting. So if you want to purchase 3D commanders, then go ahead, but to be honest, I wouldn't really ever recommend spending money on commanders because they are just a small part and they are quite expensive, so I'd rather spend it on a tank that I get to actually play within the game rather than something at the end of the game. But then again, if you want to support the game, you can do. Yeah, it's just entirely up to you. As far as the other things that are coming out, we have the return of Monster Hunter Challenge, where you can pick a free premium tanks that you want out of any of the previously released monster tanks, except from the licensed tanks. So I don't know which ones those are. They may be like the Nameless and the Edelweiss. I don't even know. I don't even think that those were the Halloween ones. Not entirely sure, but essentially you can't pick any licensed tanks. So that includes things like, for example, a licensed tank would be like the Bone Shaker, which I think was the Hot Wheels version of the TS5. Then you have things like the Roger Dodger, which is a licensed version of the E75 TS. They're all licensed versions of a tank, so as soon as the license expires, which a lot of them have already, they can't then sell you a tank that has content from someone else, because then they'd get copyrighted basically. So that's why they can't actually sell you or give away any of the licensed tanks, because they would be profiting off of your essentially playing. Yes. It's an interesting thing, but that's kind of where they have to go with it. Obviously, they could get the license back, but they're never really going to do it because the tank's old by then. People aren't going to want to pay for an old tank, and the amount that they probably have to pay for the license is the exact same as whether or not they paid for it to begin with. So yeah, probably you'll never see the licenses coming back into the game. Anyway, moving forward, the Monster x2 Commander XP. All monster tanks earned or purchased at any time will receive ×2 Commander XP during Halloween, so it's a great time to train up some of your old crews. You're looking at things like the Black Dog, the Hollenhund, all of those kind of tanks, the Lycan, they're all going to have ×2 Commander XP, so it's a great time to hop in them alongside the ones that already train your crew really well as well. So it's all going to stack up together if you want to then put on your ×6 Commander XP boost that you may have stored up, or ×12, or whatever the highest one you have. You're going to be earning some ridiculous amounts of Commander XP as they all stack together. So going to be a very great time for you to be able to get your 9 skill crews if you haven't already got at least a couple within your garage. Now is the time to grind them. Of course, then there is the Monster Drop Challenge, where you get a random drop when playing in purchased Halloween tanks in a certain time frame. So you'll be able to get the random drop when playing. So don't know what the monster drop is actually going to be. They haven't fully released the information as to what you'll receive. It's probably maybe premium time, some silver, maybe you'll get some emblems, stuff like that. It's probably not going to be like premium tanks from them. You're probably not going to be able to get key cards, although it could be, but that's unlikely. Then, of course, we have the Halloween Garage, which will be showcased on Insider Information on Monday, and I will do a quick review of that, an update review showing you all of that when it comes into the game. And then finally, Monster Keycards Sale and Monster Tank Bundles, which you probably aren't going to want to pay for unless you have some ridiculous amounts of money, because tend to be when they come around, they don't usually do a massive discount. So yeah, it depends on the discount. If it's like 60% off and you're picking some of the best Monster Tank bundles within the game, which I will try and showcase the best ones to kind of purchase if you're wanting tanks that are super overpowered, or, you know, it's up to you whether you want to pick a tank that maybe isn't as competitive as another one. So then it's kind of your opinion as to which ones you want to go with. Maybe you particularly like a tank, and even though it's not necessarily that good in the game, that's kind of where my angle comes from. It comes from a fact that this is the best tank, these are the best tanks if you want to have the most competitive time within the game. Obviously, some of you aren't interested in having necessarily the best tank to play in, so that's kind of where my viewpoint comes from. But yeah, obviously take your own viewpoint with the monster tanks that I will be reviewing later on Tuesday. Anyway, 26th of October, so the following week, Monsters Awaken mode returns. So this is essentially the Halloween game mode whereby all of your tanks get special attributes within this game mode, and then you can, I think with the Lycan you go faster. I think with this new tank you'll be able to do lightning strikes and stuff like that on people. They all have like their special attribute which you can activate within the game, and then you get a specific thing that you can essentially do within the game. So yeah, very interesting mode. Obviously, if you haven't played it before, if you're new to World of Tanks, then this is a fantastic thing for you to experience. When you've played it a couple times, gets a little bit repetitive, but yeah, for those of you who haven't played it, it will be a really fun thing to do, and obviously it will get you using that new Monster Hunter tank that you can get for free within World of Tanks. So there we go. Now, not only is the Monster Hunter operation and all of that jazz coming back into the game, we're also getting the Tanks Reforged event for the Chieftain Mark 6 line. Yes, you heard me right, the Chieftain Mark 6 is getting buffed. Yeah, I don't quite know what they're going to do with that. I will do a review of all of the tanks kind of leading up to that, at least the Chieftain and the Conqueror probably, and then potentially some of the premium ones, things like the British Bulldog, the Tier 6 and the Carnarvon Action X and Paladin Carnarvon. We'll have a look at them all within one video, see if they're actually any better and what the buffs actually are when they come around in an update news video. Other than that, there is a few kind of topics of interest and definitely ones you want to stay tuned for, and that is obviously the armadillo changes are still being tested. There was definitely a camouflage bug, so that's not particularly very good for the game. Obviously, a tank that already has ridiculous camo getting a camouflage bug whereby they're probably more indetectable. Yeah, that's pretty concerning, at least for me anyway. Of course, then we had the Xbox Super Test will now be recruiting and open again soon. So you'll be able to maybe get your hands on some of the exclusive content within World of Tanks before it even reaches your console in the main game. But of course, you won't be able to talk about it. You won't be able to tell anyone about it because, of course, it is kind of kept under wraps. And I think you have to sign an NDA because that's what, that's what Wargaming do. They can't disclose any information that isn't actually publicly available. So that's kind of what you have to do if you're in the Super Test. Of course, let me know what you think about potentially joining the Super Test. Are you interested or not? Then, of course, we have the map list rotation has been adjusted to a random cycle performance rating system to support a competitive type of event in random battles. So I don't quite know what this means. If you're in the comment section and you do know what they mean by this is all taken from the Twitch stream. I'm assuming that from what I can tell, that they'll take your battle rating or whatever your personal rating is, then put you in a game with other people that also have similar kind of performance ratings. But then what happens with the marks of excellence? Because if that happens, then people aren't going to be able to do as much damage. But then if you're comparing people against other people that maybe aren't as good, but they're in matches where it's easier because their performance rating is lower, then people that aren't actually the best in the game are going to be getting 4 marks, whilst other people may only be able to get 2 marks because they're not dealing as much damage because they're just playing against some of the best players in the game. Don't know how that will work if they do it that kind of way. It could just be an event like a thing where you just join in and you try and get like essentially a small ranked battles. I don't know, but obviously Wargaming will have to flesh that out a little bit more, talk about it a little bit more in some of the upcoming events, and hopefully we'll get some more information as and when that gets dropped. And then finally, Spectator HUD, we have gathered together a number of bugs and improvements. They are with UI at this time, so they'll basically be looking at implementing a better Spectator HUD for custom games. And then, of course, Hellfire Pass community test is ongoing at this time in custom games, so you'll be able to have a look at that. We've got a couple of images here to be able to have a look at, but essentially that is the end of the video. Of course, let me know what you think about all of these new content, this brand new overpowered, potentially premium tank, and the commanders that we've got. Let me know. Hopefully you'll enjoy this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.